is Encore.
Cool.
The stories behind the songs.
Thank you.
Here's iHeartRadio's Miles Galloway.
Yes, finally, we get to rock out on an all-new episode of Encore. I'm Miles Galloway, and this is the story of Green Day's American Idiot, told by a British idiot. I mean, who didn't have this song on their first-generation iPod Mini back in 2004? For me, that was my sister's. I had to borrow hers. It was pink. That didn't take me very long to lose my edge on this episode, did it? So, by the time the new millennium arrived, Green Day were thriving as one of the world's biggest rock bands. The 90s had been good to the band. After years of building a following as an independent act, in 1994, the trio of Billie Joe Armstrong, Trey Cool, and Mike Dirnt signed to a major label and released their third album, Dookie. To just about everyone's surprise, Dookie became a cultural phenomenon, bringing punk rock back to life in the mainstream, winning the band's first Grammy Award, allowing them to steal the show at Woodstock 94, and go on to sell 20 million copies. It is credited as an influence on everyone from Blink-182 and Fall Out Boy to Sum 41 and even Billie Eilish, who has said, growing up, there was no band more important to me. For the remainder of the 1990s, Green Day were rolling. Their next two albums, 1995's Insomniac and 1997's Nimrod, continued to feed kids the punk rock they were hungry for. But they also broke ground with an older audience, scoring a hit with their ballad Good Riddance, Time of Your Life, after its soundtracked a farewell episode to Seinfeld as the sitcom neared the end of its run. The song made Green Day more famous than ever, soundtracking proms and graduations, and even appearing on the Canadian adult contemporary charts. In 2000, they released their sixth album, Warning. The guys in Green Day were starting to move away from the childish, jokey nature of their earlier albums. They obsessively listened to Bob Dylan, and thanks to the success of Time of Your Life, they began using acoustic guitars a lot more. When it came out, though, Warning was received with less excitement than its predecessors. All of a sudden, Green Day were being called folk punks, not just because of the nature of their music, but also because of their seniority. Warning sold fewer copies than their previous three albums and earned middling reviews. Oh, that reminds me, actually, we got a lovely review for this very podcast, Encore, on Apple Podcasts. It says, best podcast ever. 5 stars. Miles is the best. That is all. And that was written by... Oh, that was by me. Okay, never mind. One writer for Rolling Stone questioned their creative decisions entirely. Who wants to listen to songs of faith, hope, and social commentary from what used to be Snotcore's biggest selling band? Ouch. 1 year after Warning's release, Green Day put out the greatest hits compilation, International Super Hits. In many ways, it closed the door on Green Day as everyone knew them. One final co-headlining trek with Blink-182 on the Pop Disaster Tour demonstrated how the pop-punk torch had been passed on to their younger disciples. It felt like a sign that maybe the well had dried up for Green Day. After fulfilling all of their commitments in 2002, Green Day were at a standstill. The band met up and questioned whether they wanted to even keep going anymore. While their personal lives were in shambles, the band's existence was on the verge of crumbling. Breaking up was an option, Dirnt told Rolling Stone. We were arguing a lot and we were miserable. We needed to shift directions. The band decided to give it one more kick at the can, but first they needed to repair their relationship. They began to hold weekly discussions where they would bare their souls to each other, sharing their thoughts and feelings. Admitting that we cared for each other was a big thing, Trey Cool would tell Rolling Stone. We didn't hold anything back. Now healed and revitalized, Green Day entered the studio to record a new album they had titled Cigarettes and Valentines. They wanted to get back to what they loved, fast, angry punk rock. But they also got a little weird, admittedly writing some polka songs, filthy versions of Christmas tunes, and salsa numbers. At the time, bassist Mike Dirnt told Kerrang!, I think we've had a nice break from making hard and fast music, and it's made us wanted to do it again. What once was old is now new again. Despite recording 20 tracks, Cigarettes and Valentines would never see a release because it was stolen. Or maybe it was deleted from the computer drive. There are conflicting stories, but Dirnt would later tell Billboard, the master tapes are gone. We still have some burned CDs, but those are not good enough to release. Nearly 10 years later, Armstrong told NME that some songs were in the vault. Okay, Taylor. And they weren't sure if any of that stuff ends up seeing the light of day. Either way, the band were obviously not happy about losing an album's worth of songs. We were really pissed, Armstrong told Rolling Stone. But it ended up being good, because we were readying ourselves to go where we hadn't gone before. So back to the drawing board they went. One idea Green Day decided to pursue was a radical one, based on a dream Armstrong had of writing a punk rock bohemian rhapsody of the future. Wow. That song would eventually become Jesus of Suburbia, which helped shake up the foundations of the band and push them into a brave new world. Mike Dirnt told Much Music's Hannah Sung,
I think this band fears being bored, you know? We really always want to challenge ourselves as musicians and individuals and manage to somehow have fun and get drunk in between.
To curb their boredom, all three members began writing 30-second songs as a kind of competition. They started to string them together to make whole songs or musical suites. It was only then that they realized this wasn't so much an album they were making, it was more like a story for a film or a book. From that point on, Green Day had begun writing a full-on rock opera. Even better, the first ever punk rock opera. Once again, the band reconvened with producer Rob Cavallo, who'd worked on all of Green Day's albums since Dookie. They would spend their days writing and recording, and their nights drinking and hosting a pirate radio station, broadcasting studio jams and prank phone calls. Overall, the band spent 10 months working on the album, including 5 of those in Los Angeles, where most days they performed the songs with killer hangovers. It had been a long journey for the band, but they were now ready to release this new record into the world, one that would change everything for them. The band told Hannah Sung,
"Well, I think anytime that if you're coming up with something like a song or an album and there's an element of fear and excitement at the same time, I mean, we kind of felt that way, just even, being one of the first punk bands to be, played on the radio consistently and having a video out. I mean, we felt it with a song like Time of Your Life, where it was like, this is the first time we're doing this sort of vulnerable acoustic thing. And for this, it was like, it's that same sort of feeling times 10. There's like, it's times 10 the excitement. It's times 10 the fear at the same time.
Green Day announced that their 7th album would be called American Idiot. The title comes from a song of the same name, which came to Armstrong after hearing Lynyrd Skynyrd's That's How I Like It in the car. It angered him hearing the classic rockers sing about their Southern American traditional values. He told Q magazine, it was like, I'm proud to be a redneck. And I was like, oh my God, why would you be proud of something like that? This is exactly what I'm against. When he got to the studio, Armstrong furiously penned the song. He said, I looked at the guys like, do you mind that I'm saying this? And they were like, no, we agree with you. And it started the ball rolling. Released as the album's first single, American Idiot wasted no time declaring Green Day's mission to address their socio-political concerns and kick off their new punk rock opera opus with 3 minutes of politically charged fire. Here's what Green Day told Much Music's Hannah Sung.
It's slightly self-deprecating, and, the word American Idiot. A long time ago, I had a T-shirt that I used to write idiot and put an arrow up to my face, so... but it's also just sort of feeling lost in American culture right now, and just trying to figure out what your individuality is, if you even have any. So it's, just the things that you see on the news, where it's reality television and war news, and with splashes of Viagra in between sort of come up, which just kind of leads to a little confusion.
The song turned Green Day into a political juggernaut overnight. All of a sudden, the band that once scored a hit song about having no motivation was now heading a protest that many believed to be targeting American President George W. Bush. And while Green Day weren't afraid to call out the White House for waging a war in Iraq, Armstrong told Spin magazine, I would never think of American Idiot as being about the Bush administration specifically. It's about the confusion of where we're at right now. Speaking with George Stroumboulopoulos for Much Music, the band reiterated,
I think as soon as George Bush came into office is when I was like, that's when the fear started to really come in. And just how divided the country just started to become.
The accompanying music video, directed by Samuel Bayer, only poured more gasoline on the flames. Though it's a straightforward performance video, the band saw a chance to further their mission statement by playing in front of a giant green floating American flag. Here's more with George.
So then it gets into, the video was done by Sam Bayer, and I think it was really strong message with the flag, sort of the colors running, and coming out almost looks like some kind of toxic pollution or something like that.
Upon its release, American Idiot became the band's biggest song to date, scoring the band their first entry into the Billboard Hot 100 and topping the Canadian digital song sales 4 weeks in a row. On September 21st, 2004, Green Day released the album American Idiot, just over a month away from the US presidential election. During performances leading up to the election, Armstrong performed the title track wearing a George W. Bush mask. In an interview with Much Music, he explained the band's political agenda.
Well, I mean, I think what we're trying to do is like, we're the other side, we're the opposition, which, a lot of musicians aren't really, they're talking about politics and they're singing songs about politics and but it's, they're not really, it's like they're so diplomatic about it, they're so nice about it, And for us, I mean, being nice is the kiss of death. And I think that's why kids have been able to relate to us so much through the years, just because, kids aren't nice. They're nasty little bastards, and that's why I love them.
American Idiot, the album, wasn't really an attack on America's political state, but more an attack on the mind-numbing, aimless conformity of American suburban life. The narrative follows a young anti-hero named Johnny who proclaims himself the Jesus of suburbia, as he and his two friends, Will and Tunny, struggle to find meaning in a post-9/11 world. Presented as a punk rock opera, the album tethers its 9 songs, some of which run between 7 and 9 minutes long, telling the story of Johnny and his friends. While some people scratch their heads over the band releasing an hour-long concept album that pushed the limits of what they considered 3-chord punk music, it ended up changing Green Day as a band. All of a sudden, they were reborn with more purpose than ever. Green Day spoke about this with Hannah Sung.
I mean, we just really want to live up to our own ambition as far as creativity, and so that's by making a storyline throughout the record, making like something that we can 9-minute epics and something that's like considered like punk rock opera, if you will.
Their focus was also broader than their own music. With American Idiot, Green Day wanted to change the music around them by injecting new life into rock and roll, which they believed had become stagnant and predictable. Telling Much Music's George Stroumboulopoulos,
So I think rock music has become so fucking boring. So I mean, that's what we like. We want to make it not boring anymore. I mean, people think, and I don't know. It's a good idea to just come up with something that's just like more epic and bombastic.
Much like Dookie 10 years prior, American Idiot was a landmark release for Green Day. Their fans felt not only entertained by the band's evolution and ambition in presenting a rock opera, but also empowered by the messages they had heard within it. American Idiot became their first #1 on the Billboard album charts, remaining on it for over a year. It would go on to sell more than 16 million copies, only second to Dookie. At the 2005 Grammy Awards, American Idiot was nominated for Album of the Year and Best Rock Album, winning the latter, whilst American Idiot, the song, was nominated for Record of the Year, Best Rock Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal, and Best Rock Song. Additionally, the song won the Viewer's Choice Award at the MTV VMAs. Armstrong told Kerrang! In 2005, quote, "I think what American Idiot has done for us is really change our history in a lot of ways. It created a new future for us. It's made all our albums since Dookie made sense for people who weren't up to speed with what we were doing. Obviously, having all this critical acclaim is a first, but that's all." Both the album and the song continued to maintain their relevance years after. In 2006, Weird Al Yankovic gave American Idiot arguably the greatest honor any song could receive when he spoofed it as Canadian Idiot. Some sample lyrics include, "They all live on donuts and moose meat, and they leave the house without packing heat. And they think their silly accent is so cute, can't understand a thing they're talking about." Canadians really do say about, don't they? The following year, a funeral version of the song made it into the Simpsons movie, appearing after the band drowns following their performance at Lake Springfield, just like the string quartet in Titanic. Then in 2009, American Idiot got a new lease on life when it was adapted into a musical launching in Berkeley, California, near the band's home. The musical ran in various productions until 2022, including performances in Toronto and Vancouver. While the whole band wasn't involved, Billie Joe Armstrong wrote and even starred as St. Jimmy during runs in 2010 and 2011. Other musicians to play the role include Melissa Etheridge and AFI's Davey Havok. Nearly 20 years after its release, American Idiot is still among us. The song was revived by the Brits in 2018 as a way of protesting a visit to their country by then President Donald Trump. Yeah, that's right, there was a campaign to try and get it to #1 on the singles chart for his arrival. It only managed to reach number 25. However, it did come in at #2 in Scotland. Yes, who I must say, have exquisite taste in music. Wouldn't you agree? Even Green Day got in on the protest, utilizing the song to condemn Trump's presidency at the 2019 iHeartRadio Music Festival in Las Vegas. While they performed the song, Armstrong replaced the lyric, "I'm not a part of a redneck agenda," with "I'm not a part of a MAGA agenda," in reference to Trump's infamous red hat slogan, "Make America Great Again." On the other side of the world, the South China University of Technology conducted a study to determine the most dangerous music to listen to while driving. Hopefully this podcast doesn't fall under that category. Whilst Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven was discovered to be the least dangerous of the songs they tested, American Idiot was deemed the most dangerous song to listen to while driving, beating out Miley Cyrus's Party in the USA and The Killers' Mr. Brightside for the title. If that's not something to be proud of, then I don't know what is. To this day, American Idiot is one of Green Day's biggest songs, one that helped recharge a band on the brink of splitting up. It has also become a go-to political anthem that seems to pop up every 4 years or so. And let's not forget that it's been clinically proven to cause road accidents, which kind of reminds me of a PSA I feel I need to share. Kids, if you're going to blast American Idiot, please make sure you're not doing it from behind the wheel. There you go. I'm Miles Galloway, and that was the story of Green Day's American Idiot on Encore, an iHeartRadio podcast with brand new episodes every Thursday. See you on the next one.
Encore is an iHeartRadio Canada podcast. Subscribe to this podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts. Download the iHeartRadio app for more great podcasts just like these.